You see this first search that says Hosslong to Dying Cold?
I do.
What's that time?
You've got the, it's right over at 2:27
AM or PM?
a.m.
Ms. McCabe, you made that search at 2:27 a.m. because you knew that John O'Keefe was outside in your sister's lawn dying in the cold, didn't you?
Absolutely not. I did not make that search at that time. No.
You realized the next morning, after John was discovered, after 6 a.m., that you had an incriminating search on your phone, didn't you?
Absolutely not.
To cover your tracks, you searched it again in order to overwrite the original search at 2:27, correct?
Again, absolutely not. Again, absolutely not.
Do you have an opinion as to the timing of that first search for Hosslong to Dying Cold?
Yes, I do.
What is that opinion?
That would have happened at or before January 29, 2022 at 2:27:40 a.m. in the morning.
And what is the basis for your opinion?
Again, by how this particular phone operates with that exact operating system and comparing to other data on that phone and the way it presented it out itself is all consistent with that search happening at or before that time.
Hello and welcome. I will be playing this 3-minute clip from Richard Green's testimony in the Karen Reed trial. I have relied on this clip in previous videos, but this particular clip coincides with the next video I will play for you. And in one of my past videos, I said that Richard Green used the scientific method to determine that Jennifer McCabe made the Hosslong to Die search at 2:27 a.m. on January 29th, 2022. And I said that Richard Green used the scientific method because Richard Green relied on 5 different programs, and all 5 different programs gave Richard Green the same conclusion, the same results. So if we think about the scientific method, Richard Green essentially conducted 5 different experiments, and all 5 different experiments gave him the same results. All 5 different programs, including ArtX and Celebrate, and again, 3 other programs, gave Richard Green the same result, that Jennifer McCabe did in fact make that search at 2:27 a.m. on January 29th, 2022.
Regarding that Google search for Hosslong, and I say HOS, long to Dying Cold, found in the browser state DB wall file, what was the date and time for that artifact?
Sure. So that's recorded in what's called Apicocoa time, and it's actually the number of seconds since January 1st, 2001. So you end up with this large number, and that gets converted to present to us something that's human readable, and then you have to apply the offset for the local. So once you do all those calculations, that's where we get the January 29th, 2022 at 2:27 in the morning.
The specific, do you remember the number of seconds after?
I believe it's 40 seconds.
2:27, 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. And in what state did you find that artifact?
Yeah, so the specific artifact, or it comes from a record, and the record number on this is 4028, I believe, and it was in a deleted state.
Okay. Now, what would you normally expect to find along with the artifact, sir?
So you'd have the date and time, the URL, which the way the URL presents itself, we know that as a Google search, but you also see a history of other places that tab has been.
And with this particular artifact, did you learn the full internet history of websites related to that record?
No, that wasn't possible. We were only able to get the one website. I would say.
And I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Interrupted you. Sorry.
Well, no. So we definitely got the one artifact, the Google search, and we have the time related to it, but we do not know everywhere else that tab had been.
What significance was there to you about the fact that the full internet history related to that record could not be recovered?
Well, I wanted to do a little deeper dive into that, and so I used some various other database specific tools. One was called Belkasoft X, which has an excellent database viewer in it. Sanderson Forensics, which is known to specialize in this type of work, and
ArtX?
I'm sorry?
ArtX?
You saved me. Yes, ArtX, which is a program known in the community for research.
And how did you sort of cross-reference the three of those together? How did you use them?
Yeah, so all three of those tools, along with Axiom and Cellbrite, which I did, they do have a low-level SQL viewer as well. So I looked at the data with all 5 of those tools, and I found it to be consistent amongst all the tools.
This video is from the Going Through the Motions YouTube channel. It was uploaded yesterday. It features Olivia Lambo, and it is compelling, people.
No? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he boast that this was a program that he himself developed? Did I get that right?
No, he used. So there has been a lot of misinformation spread because before the trial, you had the Commonwealth, who is like referring to him as a number of things. They're saying that he's the expert who actually creates the software, meaning Cellbrite, or he's the expert who writes the code for the software, neither of which are true. He has his own software that I believe it's called ArtX, and it's like a forensic, it's a forensic examination tool, I believe. And
if you remember in the previous clip, Richard Green relied on 5 programs, and one of those programs was ArtX. And if you don't know, she is referring to the prosecution's computer forensic expert, Ian. And Ian apparently owns ArtX.
it's completely independent of Cellbrite. It's not a part of Cellbrite. But his tool, his ArtX forensic tool, is something that he, I believe, used in his analysis, and I think it was part of his live demonstration. So one of the things that you'll see forensic examiners do, or digital forensic experts do, is data validation. And sometimes you have to do that through testing, where you literally recreate a situation. And so I believe that's the software or the program that he used just for that part of his analysis.
Right.
But it's completely different from Cellbrite.
Okay. So how did you discover this? Tell us the steps you went through to nail this down.
Well, if you remember back from the pretrial litigation, there's so many filings in this case, but the documents were always something that I've obsessed over. And so if you go back to some of the early filings in this case, I noticed that the defense had filed a motion and an affidavit from Richard Green seeking additional files for John O'Keefe's cell phone extraction. So just to give a little context to everyone, and I know this is something we talked about before, but I think it's a really unappreciated point because it changes your perspective on how the defense theory, came to the public. So the Commonwealth, they didn't turn over the full forensic extraction of Jem McCabe's cell phone or John O'Keefe's cell phone until February of 2023. So over a year later. And because, you know, sometimes you have people I've heard say that, you know, the defense theory that Karen Reed hired Alan Jackson and brought him on, and he concocted this conspiracy theory, and like that was all Alan Jackson. Or, you know, why did it take a year and a half or a year, whatever, for the defense theory to become kind of publicly declared in court and in filings? And I mean, part of that's because you need the evidence to back up your claims, right? And they didn't have any evidence. The Commonwealth wasn't turning anything over to them. And the original extractions that they received, the original cell phone extractions that the defense received from the Commonwealth, were not the forensic images of those cell phones. So what does that mean? It means that it's missing stuff. And why would it be missing stuff?
Right.
The thing that really drew my attention to Ian Whiffin's testimony about hash values is because in the pretrial filings, you'll notice that there's the affidavit and a motion filed by Richard Green, where he's looking for these additional files associated with John O'Keefe's cell phone extraction. And some of the information he's looking for include hash values. And so
explain what a hash value is.
Yeah, of course.
I don't even know what a hash value is.
It's actually a really cool concept. It's essentially, you know, people call it a digital fingerprint. But what it does is it serves as a unique, hold on, there's a term that I'm going to mispronounce. I think it's like cryptographic, if I'm not mistaken. Cryptographic, yeah. It's so through cryptographic, it's a cryptographic process that generates a unique numerical hash. So basically like a long, unique passcode, if you will, that is assigned to a piece of digital evidence. So it could be a cell phone data extraction, it could be a video, it could be a photo. And the thing that is great about a hash is that it allows you to see whether anything has been changed from the original, like the original file that you received. So if you're downloading someone's cell phone, the original hash value that data extraction is assigned is going to be unique to that specific cell phone extraction. So not only is it unique in the sense that no other cell phone extraction will have the same one, but also if you make any kind of change on anything on that cell phone, that hash value will also change to reflect that change. So the reason why hash values have become so ubiquitous in the world of digital forensics is because it allows you to essentially authenticate something, to show the court that this piece of evidence is the authentic, it's the real thing. It hasn't been altered. It hasn't been manipulated. And also just for, just best practices, hashes are used readily by, if the Commonwealth is sending an expert this zip file, the expert will hash verify it because sometimes files can get corrupted for completely completely innocent reasons, completely non-nefarious reasons, like just uploading it onto whatever device that you're going to be looking at it from. So it's something that is just a standard process that forensic experts utilize, because if you don't have the authentic data to analyze, then what good is your analysis? Your analysis and your conclusions are useless if you're not looking at the authentic evidence, right?
Absolutely. You're right. That's a great, somehow I vision Mark Betterow taking copious notes right now. I don't know. I'm just kind of getting that feeling, right, Mark? No, that's a hell of a find there. Now I do have something teed up here. If you want me to, do you want me to play that first video for you?
Yeah, you can. Why don't we wait like 1 minute? Because I want to say one other thing.
Sure. Okay.
So the other thing that's important about a hash value, or just understanding the role of hash values in, a digital forensic expert witness's testimony, is that they've become so ubiquitous to authenticating digital evidence in the courts that hash values are now, it's become a standard for authentication in court, because under the rules of evidence for digital evidence, the overarching rules are relevance, the relevance of the evidence, the authenticity,
right,
and I always forget the last one, of course, reliability.
Right.
So those are the three, overarching rules of evidence for digital evidence. And authentication is probably the most important, because it's like, if you don't have the real evidence, then nothing else, nothing beyond that point really matters. Especially when you're talking about digital evidence, which is something that the slightest change can completely change how the evidence is analyzed and the conclusions that are drawn from it.
Very good. That's great. That's incredible, because authenticity, you have to authenticate evidence, like any piece of evidence, right? You find something, you have to mark it, identify it, photograph it. It has to be authenticated, and the person who found it has to come into court, like Whiffin did, and say that this is authenticated. But he didn't, right?
And not only that, but another way that you might think about it is like DNA, for instance. It's kind of like, if you have the DNA sequence wrong, even if it's off by like one, minuscule portion of the sequence is off, it's a different sequence. So it's the wrong, it's like, are you going to convict somebody off of DNA that it's like, it may be so incrementally off, but that little error, that portion that is off, is so significant, because it means that DNA doesn't belong to that person, so right. It is an important thing in terms of evidence in a criminal trial, and it's regularly used by expert witnesses. You'll hear them testify to that. I mean, I've heard that testified to by digital forensic experts. And in fact, I've been watching a lot of testimony from those types of experts on YouTube lately. But
did you get into the Murdoch case at all with that evidence?
I watched that at the time.
Yeah.
But so I don't, it's funny, because that's an example of a trial that there's like some of the digital forensic testimony, in my opinion, is just kind of laughable, because there was this guy from the state who basically his job was to like throw around a cell phone and see if he could recreate certain, I think it was like certain movement data or something from the phone,
sure.
And throw it around in his office. And I don't know, anybody who watched the Murdaugh trial probably knows what I'm referring to, but it was just
That
like
was the
kind
slide.
of the
That was
most
the slide.
embarrassing.
That was the guy from
Huh?
Slide, right? That was the guy
Sled?
from Slide. Sled, I guess. Sled, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Now he's an expert. He's supposed to be an expert now.
But so it's like any good digital forensic expert testimony from that trial is just completely
Right. Well,
taken over by that guy.
right. All right, Olivia, that's amazing.
So yeah, so with Ian Whiffin's testimony, when going back through it, because I think it was like right around the end of trial, I was going back through a bunch of testimony, and that was when I found it. And then, of course, you know, everything started happening with the jury drama and all that. But
Sure.
when I saw that he said that he never received the hash verification information, therefore he had no way of verifying the authenticity of the extraction he'd received, and I was pretty blown away.
Well, yeah. Jeez. You had to be, right?
Yeah, because, you know, it means that none of his analysis and testimony really means anything.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Especially when we're talking about something that's, you know, that it appeared on the Celebrite report as being deleted, and it's something that's, you know, at issue, it's in question. And so if you received an incomplete report and the thing that we're trying to look for and to show that it exists and that it happened is deleted or missing anyway, like it doesn't really bode well for the reliability of his testimony.
Exactly. But if we go to Jen McCabe's phone, right? So it passed through Jen, her husband's an IT specialist, and then it had to get to Garino, right? So who would be your go-to that could have manipulated that? Would it be Matt or would it be Garino before it got to Whiffin?
So here's the thing is, like, I don't even know. By the way, am I echoing
No,
for the people
hear you
in
fine.
chat?
No, I can hear you
Okay.
fine.
Okay, good. Okay, because sometimes I just like I got an echo here and there, but I just want to make sure because I know that can be a really obnoxious.
Chat's pretty good. Don't get them going tonight because I don't want to go through this. But no, you're sounding fine. I guess they would have let us know.
Yeah, it looks
before-
like people would be saying something in
Oh
chat
yeah,
if that were the
must be
case.
with me that they always do. So
But okay. So who
would be
could
your
have manipulated it?
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, here's the other thing. Why hash verification is such an imperative step that must be taken in the forensic examination process. Because, I don't know, have you ever heard of something called chain of custody?
Of course.
I mean, I know that, like, the Norfolk County DA's office, state police, homicide division doesn't really have much appreciation for that. But in criminal, you know, in trial courts, we're supposed to have some standards as it relates to chain of custody.
And just to point that out, that in the Karen Reed trial, we witnessed a terrible, terrible display of a lack of chain of custody when it came to the evidence. And Olivia is absolutely correct. If we cannot verify it, or if we cannot depend on the reliability of it, then essentially whoever is testifying using that so-called evidence is wasting everyone's time. And for Ian to be the founder of ArtX and to just casually not acknowledge or to casually be okay testifying despite not receiving the hash data, to me says a lot about Ian.
But so here's the thing. It would be helpful to have even seen the hash value, because if the data on the phone were manipulated, then the hash value would reflect that. It would be changed. So you wouldn't be able to verify the hash because the data was changed. So the hash would also be changed from the original, when compared to the original hash. And so, but the situation here is that Whiffin just didn't even have the hash at all to begin with. So who's to say if the data were manipulated or what really he looked at, because there's no way of knowing what he looked at. You don't know the origin of it. You don't know if it's been tampered with. And so I can't definitively say if the data were manipulated or what exactly the case is. But what I can say is that he just that is something that should be a red flag to a forensic expert. I mean, it was certainly something that Richard Green noticed, and it was of import to Richard Green because the defense filed those two filings back in, I think it was like late 2022, and then in 2020, or no, I think they were probably at the same time. But so that it's clearly something that is important, and just looking at that procedural history, the fact that the hash values were missing on extractions that the defense was sent, it certainly raises questions about what exactly is being sent, as the purporting to be the forensic images of these phones, because a forensic image of a cell phone, the hash value is like something that comes with it. It's not, it's not something that would be removed or that you would have any reason to remove it, unless of course you changed data or you changed the extraction.
Right. So
Okay, unless you're trying to cover your tracks, which we all witnessed during the Karen Reed trial, there were multiple members of law enforcement and the McCabes and the Alberts and Higgins. They all attempted to cover their tracks.
my memory is that Whiffin said he did not receive any hash values, right?
Yeah, so he said that he didn't. The thing that's crazy about his testimony is he said that he didn't receive the hash value. So, he can't verify he can't do hash verification to verify the integrity of the data. But he also testified later. So David Yannetti asks him on cross examination. David Yannetti asked Ian Whiffin about this specific app. I think it's called like it's like MySQL something or whatever.
Exactly.
But it's basically an app where you can go and alter or make changes to the databases. So on your cell phone, the databases which would store the information about Google searches or whatever. And David Yannetti's asking Ian Whiffin if somebody were to have done that, potentially or hypothetically speaking, is there any way of you being able to see that they've done that? Because the apps and software that exist for that allow you or provide a way by which you can covertly do that, make changes, deletions, what have you. And Ian Whiffin's response to that was, after he'd said, he says that he didn't have the verification hash later, but Ian Whiffin's response to that was, well, actually, in the world of digital forensics, we have these things called hash values that specifically kind of provide a protection against that because they allow you to see if any of the data have been altered.
Oh, wait a minute. That
And-
was his response.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, literally, you cannot
Actually,
make this up. I didn't get
that's-
the hash in the hash. Oh my God.
That's, I think, of the two videos I sent you,
Right.
that one is
The second
the
one?
second one. Yeah.
Right. Of course, I
If
don't
you
have
want
that
to
up.
play that.
Well, let's look at this one first. Okay, let me see if I can get this right
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Right?
You actually, yeah. We should probably
All
play
right,
them in order.
Here we go. All right. Let's see. Do I have this here? Here we go.
Now, the hash mechanism that you testified as far as detecting whether or not someone had surreptitiously gone in and deleted things, did you see any evidence of that in your review of the extraction of Ms. McCabe's phone?
I didn't have access to the hash information to see.
Oh, wait a minute. So this is the government, well, the Commonwealth's witness, right? Lally's asking him.
I know, that's the crazy thing is that this came out on redirect from Lally, and I'm like, oh my God, Lally must be like, shoot, stop.
I gotta get back to this. This is like, hold on.
But I get what she's saying, but also like we learned that Karen Reed entered, or at least was at One Meadows, John O'Keefe's home at 12:36 a.m. because of Nick Guarino's testimony. And who was questioning Nick Guarino? It was Adam Lally, the prosecution. And Adam Lally didn't stop and say, holy crap, that conflicts with Joe Paul's testimony, or that conflicts with Joe Paul's investigation, that this happened, that John O'Keefe was allegedly struck at 12:45 a.m., 12:45 hours, right? Like, it's like Adam Lally is not going to stop the show. That was made clear throughout the trial. Adam Lally clearly does not care about conflicting testimonies. He's not out for the truth. He's not a real prosecutor. He is a fake prosecutor.
I'm not. This is his own witness. And this poor kid. All right, let's just see it again. This is great.
You know,
That you
Lally
testified as
so
far as
didn't
detecting
mean.
whether or not someone.
This is great. Here, let me play this again, Olivia.
Hash mechanism that you testified as far as detecting whether or not someone had surreptitiously gone in and deleted things. Did you see any evidence of that in your review of the extraction of Ms. McCabe's phone?
I didn't have access to the hash information to see whether any changes had been made. That's something that the original examiner would have had access to.
I.e. Guarino. I mean, the bottom line is this kid, Lally's asking him, did you think, the hash value you talked about before, did you see any manipulation? No, Mr. Lally, because
basically,
I didn't get the hash value.
you know what though? It's a runaround way of actually saying there's evidence that the data were presumably surreptitiously altered or manipulated, because Lally asks this question on redirect following David Yannetti asking the question that we'll watch in the next video. And where Whiffin says, well, we have these things called hash values to see if someone goes in and surreptitiously alters the data. But yet then he admits that he didn't have access to the hash information in this case, so he couldn't verify the hash. So aren't you kind of admitting then that, someone very well could have surreptitiously altered the data and I'd have no idea about it. And also there's a good chance that maybe probably happened because there's no good reason to remove the hash.
Right.
It's like you can't make this stuff up.
No, you really can't. And I think I have this thing. I think I have it set up for you. Let me see if I can. Do you want to get into that right now, you think?
The next video?
Yeah.
Yeah, go
sure.
for it.
Hold on. Let me see if I can get this put up a little bit bigger here and see if we get it here. Yeah. All right. So this is where we go with this. Share it. Play it. Here we go.
Agree with me that somebody who had access to the data before it was extracted and sent to you, could have made selective deletions of the data?
Objection.
No, I don't. Are you aware of an app called MySQL?
Yes.
What is MySQL?
MySQL is just a method for viewing SQLite databases.
All right. If someone had access to the raw data, again, before it was sent to you, and used that app, they could make selective deletions of the data, couldn't they?
I assume you're talking about opening up the extraction, taking out the particular file and editing it?
So, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You're right, you're on. I apologize. And I apologize to you. If you could restate your question or answer or give me your full answer.
Okay, so it would be possible with the extraction to take out particular databases, alter them, and put them back into the extraction. But there's something called a hash mechanism that we have in place that would it essentially hashes the original data, and then it can be hashed again at a later date. It results in a long string of characters, and if there's any changes to the original data, then we'd see that it's been modified.
Okay. Hold on. The problem with this is it's so technical, right? This feels like saying, I'm trying to relate it to something like really just simple, but here's this kid, right? This guy, right? He's saying, well, yes, we could, if we had the hash, we could definitely find out if it was manipulated. But then on redirect, he goes, no, I never got the hash, so I have no idea if it was manipulated, meaning my whole fucking being here this 2 days is for nothing.
1000%. It was a waste of everyone's time. Ian, as someone in his position who again owns ArtX, and to just have this casual attitude about it. Like, if I were he, I would have asked for the hash. I would have said, I cannot provide my expert testimony because I don't have the hash data. I don't have the DNA of the data. I can't tell if this has been altered, and I refuse to testify on behalf of something that I can't myself as an expert verify. I can't authenticate. That's what a real expert would do. So I'm just saying, Ian is sus. I will leave the link in the description below if you'd like to watch the entire live stream from going through the motions. And I hope you enjoyed this. These are just more details, people. These are just more points of evidence that were likely overlooked by the masses because maybe a lot of people don't understand the computer forensic lingo. A lot of people don't understand it unless they are in the field. So I commend Olivia and I commend Going Through the Motions for bringing this out, bringing this forward, because it's so important. We should all know that this happened. I'd also like to thank DJ from Calling All Beings for sending this link to me through Signal. And for those of you who do not know, if you go to my YouTube channel and click on the About, I believe it is, or more information, you will see the link to my YouTube channel, and you will also see my Signal screen name. If you'd like to message me there or send me links, please feel free to do so. I am here for the truth, and I am here for you guys as well. I think that a lot of people following this case and analyzing the data, we are in for the good fight. We are getting down to the truth, and it requires, to me, a lot of teamwork, a lot of effort and collaboration, not just from YouTube creators, but also from people like you listening and viewing this information. So thank you, everyone. Keep fighting the good fight. And thank you for watching.